All right. G'day, runners. Welcome back. It's been a while. Happy Wednesday from wherever you are watching. I'm Coach Roberto Mandje from New York Roadrunners. And with me today is our guest from the Hospital for Special Surgery, Anil. Anil is a PT, DPT, CSCC, SFMA, and just a general, very knowledgeable guy with a lot of more probably acronyms. So, Anil, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for all the alphabet soup that you just spilled out there. Thank you.
Yeah, a bit of a tongue twister, but it's always fun to have you. You're obviously you're a runner yourself. You're obviously representing HSS, and then you also do a lot of weight training as well. I remember a couple Facebook lives ago, you mentioned how you're doing squats and how you're sore. So you know everything that our runners are experiencing or will be experiencing. So runners out there, let us know where you're watching from today. We always love to get those shout outs if you're watching locally or internationally. It doesn't matter. Let us know. And also let us know what you're getting ready for. Springtime is here. I'm in New York City. This is actually a virtual background, but I am really in New York City. I'm not in Queens right now. But with springtime comes the rebirth of running in a way. Like people come out of hibernation. So today we're going to talk about springtime, returning to running safely, safety miles, springtime miles, things like that. So send us all your questions about injury prevention, about returning to running. And we're also going to have a segment where we cover runner's knees. So that's something that a lot of runners hear about, and we actually use that word often. But whether you're a new runner or not, sometimes people just use that and just don't really know what it means. So we're going to ask Anil to define it for us, and then just kind of how to maybe get around it or treat it if we already have it. So again, submit your questions. Let us know where you're watching from. And yeah, let's get started. Anil, are you ready for this?
Let's do it. Always ready.
All right. Yeah, I showed up ready, born ready. Okay, so I guess the first question, talk about spring safety miles. Springtime, as I mentioned, people are coming out of hibernation. Some people were pretty diligent. The start of the year, new me. They were training, through the winter months. But now a lot more people tend to go out. You look at Central Park, it looks like it's a parade going out there on these super nice days. So for those people coming out of quote unquote hibernation, just starting to run again, what would those runners, or what should they be cautious of as they start their spring mileage?
Yeah, it's always important, when you're going right back out into activity. I think to have a mindset as you always want to crush it, right? You always want to go out and have a great performance, but a lot of times when that first time out there, you're feeling great. Oh my God, it's so nice again. I'm running a lot. I feel great. Endorphins are going. You can actually push yourself too much. So I think having a plan is going to be like first and foremost. I think being able to recognize, how many miles you're going to be running or how you're going to do it in terms of like maybe you run one and then you walk, a half a mile, then you run another mile, then you walk a quarter of a mile, just something like that, just to kick the body back into it again. And then also, just having that solid warm up and solid cool down because, first time back out there, you're going to be sore, you're going to feel something. You want to just prepare yourself as best as possible.
Excellent, thank you. And actually, just going off script, as they say, I just thought of something that we were talking about getting back into running. So obviously, springtime, the days are longer. We move their clocks forward. And I was speaking to one of our runners the other day, and they mentioned how they enjoy spring because they could run after work now. They don't have to stress as much about getting up early, rushing, and getting the run in before, and oftentimes in the dark before work. So in your expert opinion, are there benefits, physiologically speaking, to running after work? Most of us are tired, but it's a good way to distress, and the days are longer. Or is it just better to try to get it in the morning when you get out of the way, and as you mentioned, endorphins, and then it's something you don't have to think about the rest of the day?
That's a great point. I was just thinking about that exact same scenario as you were saying it. So I think really, it just depends on where you're at, right? So if you're training for something, right, we've all been there. If you're training for something, you just got to get it in, right? You just got to get that work in at any time of the day. Of course, when it gets closer, you're running towards the same time that you may be running on the day of the race. But if we're just talking strictly kind of getting back in there or just, going for your casual runs or whatnot. There's been a lot of studies that show that running before a long day of work will could be a little tough because you're jumping out of bed, and let's say we're not warming up as efficiently. You say you're a little tired too, and those muscles are tired as well. You may lead to some kind of twinge as you're running, or maybe a little bit of discomfort here and there. But at the same time, conversely, those endorphins kind of wake the body up too, and then actually make you have a little bit more of a productive day. Studies have shown that. And then conversely, when you're running after work per se, I mean, we've all been there, right? You have a tough day at work, you get home, and the last thing you want to do is exert yourself, right? That couch is calling your name, that bed is calling your name. So, with that being said, from a physiological standpoint, it can be really good, to kind of break the cycle of being stagnant and then getting back out there and running. But at the same time, again, just like running in the morning, you need to have a good solid warm up, because again, if a lot of us work a sedentary job, so if you are sitting for 8 hours and then you start running right away, that can lead to a little bit of an issue. But conversely, too, from a mental standpoint, too, it's a great way to de-stress. If that's your thing, and it's a great way to just be with yourself, be with your thoughts, and also just to it's almost like a form of rehab, both mentally and physically, throughout your day. So really, it really works best for whatever works for you. But I think if you are training for something, that's when you have to be a little bit more focused.
Yeah, wonderful response. And actually, one thing anecdotally is just we have at New York Runners, we have group training, so we meet several times a week here in Central Park and in Brooklyn. So shout out to those runners and the coaches. But we meet at 6:30 in the morning, which for me is like pretty early. Even though I have kids, I'm already up. It's like to think about running and running a hard workout. But then we also meet at 6:30 in the evening. And it's interesting because you do have sometimes a lot of the same coaches do AM and PM, and they're just all stars. But then you see completely different kinds of runners and even people with different lifestyles. Sometimes people are just like, I need to get it in before work. It makes my workday better, as you kind of mentioned. Some people are like, no, it makes my workday bearable because then I have something to look forward to afterwards. So it's really interesting. Obviously, there's no exact or right answer because it's just everybody is different. So I guess to you really quickly, what's your preference?
I think we're on the same page today, Roberto, because I was just about to tell you, admit to everybody my routine. Unfortunately, because of my schedule, because of treating you lovely, lovely patients throughout the day, and having a pretty long commute, I actually have to wake up at 2. In order to get my workout in, right? And then from there, I leave the house around 4:30 to get here for about 6:37. So that's my routine, and it's every day. It sucks, but it's the only way. And my goal is just to get it in, right, and just to have that exercise. But if I don't, you best believe I'm sleeping in, and I'm doing it whenever whenever I have the time. So I think a routine is so important because it just keeps us, structured, and it just kind of gets us mentally prepared. But when you have those days where you can splurge, as I say, and you work out at like noon instead of 2, it's a lot better.
That is absolutely bonkers. You wake up at 2. I'm
Yeah.
assuming 2 a.m., not 2 p.m.
2 a.m. 2 a.m. It's a tough
That
life, but it's
all
okay. I'm
right.
still
You're
smiling.
not gonna have to. You're not gonna have to speak about this offline. As a coach, we're have to talk.
Yeah.
You're the health specialist, but wow. Okay, well, yeah, that just absolutely blew my mind. But I think we have a couple of shout outs starting to come in, so we're gonna take a break from the questions in here. So we have Edgar Buezo, or Edgar Bueno, actually. We know him. Hello, Coach Roberto, and God bless you. Thank you, Edgar. He's one of our longtime runners from East Harlem. Great guy. Next shout out. Oh, this one is Tiny Anthony Ford. Can't read all of it. Something Schneider Electric Marathon de Paris. So in a good place to train for New York. Hello from England. All right. Thank you for watching. Joan Bagari. Greetings from Ireland. Greetings. We got Just Poto. I think you know this one. Anil appreciation post from one of his PT patients. Awesome. Yeah, Anil's an all-star and Jess is one
Thank
of
you,
his
Jess.
colleagues. So yeah, we always love those. We have Gilvan Souza. I want to run a new marathon. Well, we have the TCS New York City Marathon. That's this November, so maybe that's new to you. Okay, this one is I'm guessing from Sweden. Oh, Finland, yeah. Evamagia Apainen. Um, something from I can't see all of it. I apologize. Training for my first marathon. I'll see you guys in New York in November. We look forward to welcoming you. We have a long tradition with Finnish runners, so yeah, and they have a great tradition in marathoning. So yeah. Ruby Kumar. Hi, Anil from Michigan. So more Anil fans. I'm one of them. Yeah. Uh, we have Gail Miranda. Hi from Long Island, New York. Excited for the Brooklyn half. I am also excited. That's actually one of my favorite races of the year because of the pre-party. It's great weather. We're out there by Brooklyn Pier Park. Yeah, I'm not sure if Anil you'll be there with HSS or you'll be there to pick up your bit, but it's a great experience.
Definitely, yep, we'll be there.
Awesome. Tanya Bachelot from Montreal, done the New York City half and excited about Brooklyn. See you all there. I'm also excited about Brooklyn. It's also a quick course. You know, we just had the United Airlines New York City half marathon about a month and a half ago or so, and that was a great race. But you know, Brooklyn, the Royal Bank of Canada Brooklyn half, it's such a quick course. So a lot of people set personal bests, and the weather's usually agreeable. Okay, another optometrist test here. Gavin Quigley, after many attempts, I finally got a spot in New York City Marathon. Cannot wait. See you in November. Top of my marathon bucket list. Yeah, we are super excited for this year's marathon. You know, just building up from the momentum from 2021, which seems like it was so long ago, but it's also only a few months back. Yeah. So, but first, I'm looking forward to enjoying spring and summer. Okay, Alberta Alonso, a shout out from Brooklyn, New York. All right, Brooklyn's in the house. Always love the local love. Volcano0201. I'm guessing that's a YouTube commenter. My staff member from Mickey Mouse Town in Orlando. I don't know what that means.
Me neither.
Yeah, just we're just okay. Oh, both your facial hair games are on point. That's from Squidward Tentacles. I didn't even know what my
Tentacles.
facial hair game is. And Neil, you just have a standard beard, right?
I need to groom it, but thank you, Squidward. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I would say you have a 5 o'clock shadow, but you wake up at 2 a.m., so you have something
So
else. Yeah,
it's
a
a
4 a.m. shadow.
dusk beard. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Vincent Ventura, saludos desde Monterrey, Mexico. Saludos, Vincent. Thank you. All right, lots of shout outs. So yeah, let's take a break from the shout outs and continue. Yeah, again, shout outs are great. If you have any questions about injuries, it doesn't have to be spring related or even about runner's knee, which we'll get to in the next segment, but just let us know because, you know, when we do these Facebook chats, we usually try to answer the questions based on our experience, myself and the coaching staff in New York Roadrunners, but it's always a special moment when we actually have the experts with, as Anil said, the alphabet soup of certifications and accreditations. So continuing with the springtime mile. So obviously we covered, you know, how to kind of start running and also the plus and minuses of longer days, which again, I'm all about the longer days. But even when you start making sure you stay healthy and injury free, it's always imperative, you know, whether it's spring, summer, whatever season is. But the question specific for you, Anil, is when we start running, we're going to feel sore naturally because, you know, we haven't been running for a while, or at least some of us. So what's a good way for a new runner or somebody who's starting to run again to identify the difference between soreness and injury pain or discomfort?
Yeah, it's always a good question. I think it's super important. You know, the soreness to me, I always feel like it's something that we've all experienced in some facet in life. You know, it just maybe take the analogy of just even moving. You know, moving from one house to the next or one apartment to the next. You know, you're working pretty hard, right? Packing those boxes, lifting them, going up and down stairs, things like that. The next day, you kind of feel it. You feel sore. You feel tired. You feel beat up a little bit. And that to me is kind of what soreness is. It's kind of that dull, achiness that you feel in your muscles primarily, that kind of linger for a couple days, but should dissipate, each day. Usually the second day after exerting yourself is usually the toughest, like kind of the peak of your soreness, but after that it starts to taper off. Now, if we're talking about true pain, or something a little bit more sinister, that's pain that just doesn't go away. If I do X, I have pain, right? And it just doesn't dissipate. It's the same intensity, or it gets a little bit higher. Those things, that's something serious. If it's definitely something that keeps you up at night, it's kind of unrelenting a little bit. That's definitely kind of the realm of pain and things where you should be checked out as. Other things too, it's like when you exert yourself, you're gonna have a lactic acid buildup. That's what kind of causes that soreness in our muscles and in our joints at times. But really, a lot of times, we're going to feel, different types of sensations. You might have a little bit of inflammation or things like that. But if we're talking about significant inflammation, primarily within like the joints of your body, again, that's just something a little bit more sinister, or a little bit more concerning, that you want to kind of reach out for. So, to kind of sum it up, soreness is something that you kind of all experience. It kind of dissipates with time, and pain, or something that you need to get checked out, is something that doesn't go away. It's sharp, it wakes you up, and it's really concerning that way.
Yeah, thank you for that. It just reminded me, I was at group training last Thursday, and I tend to think I'm in decent shape. And we ran a workout with the runners, the coaches, and afterwards we were kind of going around doing a little body weight strength routine, and we did lunges. So obviously I did lunge, and by the time I finished the lunges, I could immediately feel the soreness under my hamstrings and my glutes. And I was like, geez, like I guess I had, and it reminded me, like, I guess I haven't done like a proper lunge in so long, that it's amazing how the body's just so quick to give you that instant feedback, like, hey, this is soreness, or as you said, this is an injury. The sort of follow up I have with that, and this is a question that has come to us in the past from runners, is when an injury starts to sort of move. So like, last week it was my ankle, for example, and now this week is the outside of my right knee, or hip, or whatever. What does that mean? And is that a good thing, bad thing?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the presentation of it, right? So if it's like, for instance, we have a lot of patients that come in with back pain, but they also have leg pain with it, right? And so, for the most part, we always want to move pain from a distal location and move it more approximately. So a lot of times people will say, I have a little bit of pain in my back, but like it really is a lot in my legs. But then if it starts to move up centrally and it gets a little bit more intense, that's actually okay, because what that means is that we're resolving a lot of the distal symptoms and moving it more proximally. However, if we start to think about, like, all right, I had an ankle pain, and then all of a sudden outside of my knee, and then maybe on my other knee and things like that, that to me is a little bit different, right? Because that to me is not more of a progression of pain, but more so like you did an activity, and then all of a sudden we're kind of finding all the deficits that you may have had. So for instance, if you're doing that lunge like you were talking about, and then you have knee pain afterwards, maybe it's not necessarily your knee, maybe it's the fact that you have glute weakness that's kind of just pulling tension on that knee in a certain angle there. So I think if it moves around like that, it's but if it's at a low level, to me, that's a little bit more of like you're exposing your deficits, and you have to kind of work on that. But if it's moving around, and again, it's that unrelenting type of stuff, that's where you want to get checked out.
All right, thank you for that. And I like the slight there. Is like, you might have a weak glute. Like, I caught that. It's all right, man. Throw me under the bus, but yeah, I gotta work on it. Cool.
Yeah, just
One
just
last question
just
to you
trying to
before we.
relate it, just trying to relate it to the
Yeah,
audience.
yeah. It's such a polite way of saying you're weak right now. But yeah, so one more quick question to you before some more shout outs and maybe some questions from the audience is just it's relatively generic or general rather, but best tips for you that you would give to new runners in 2022.
I think first and foremost is like, well, I'll give you the cop out answer, and that's just be prepared, right? If you're starting a new activity, kind of find out all the things that it takes to do that activity. Just real quick, I've been a competitive tennis player my entire life and played in college, and I loved it. But nothing. Kind of irks me a little bit is when a patient comes in and says, "Oh yeah, I just picked up tennis. I thought it was going to be easy, but now I hurt my shoulder," type of thing. So it's like almost like I guess you have to a little bit respect what you're doing. So for instance, for running, be prepared as best as possible, and if I can leave you with anything, a good solid pair of shoes are going to be your number one most important thing to go to. Get yourself checked out in a running store, or anywhere that can really fit you to the right pair of shoes, depending on how you move through your foot or even through your running stride. Start there first, and then you can build from that.
All right, wonderful advice. I love it. Be prepared, and also if you're going to get injured playing tennis, don't go see Anil because he's going to take it personal. So respect the sport that you're undertaking. But yeah,
Exactly.
Anil took
Exactly.
that personal.
I
Awesome.
did.
Well, let's hear some more shout outs and questions from the audience. So we have Agustin Martins, I believe from Argentina. See you in November for my first marathon. All right. Agustin, we'll welcome you. Argentina always throws a large contingent of runners, so look forward to seeing you. We have Carl K. Carl from Manhattan doing Brooklyn half. All right, we'll see you in Brooklyn. Ruby Kubar. Hi, Coach Roberto. All right. Hey, Ruby, how are you doing? All right, Brian Carstensen. Let me see. I think I figured out what. Okay, from Fort Lauderdale. Love the virtuals, but excited for my third New York City marathon this year. Can't wait for the energy. We feel the same way. We love to see people in person. Okay, we have JB Ong. Bonjour from France. Oh, hello from France. I guess I translated that in my head. Welcome. Dub Dinero Esco. What up? What up? Edub repping from the new feast side of San Antonio. See you in about 6 months. I understood a lot of that. All right. Samuel Matias. Hi, thanks for the chat. I'm planning to run the New York Marathon. With which exercise do you recommend for strengthen the knees and hip in order to avoid injuries? Thank you very much. I'm Samuel from Portugal. So this is for you, Anil, and which will lead us into our next segment.
Yeah, I think in general speaking, I think I mean, you guys will always hear me say it all depends, right? It's also on your deficits and how you present and whatnot. But in general, I think you can't go wrong with doing clamshells, doing monster walks, or working on your squatting form, so even weight through both legs, and then moving on to single-legged stuff. So it's like stepping down from a height, from an 8-inch height, 10-inch height, stuff like that, showing good control. Just practicing a lot of like running specific movements. So a lot of my patients, before I have them start running again, and they're avid runners and whatnot, I have them demonstrate how to land properly on both legs and one leg, right? So that way you're not deviating, through your knees or your hips or anything like that. You're absorbing force nicely. So and then of course, a good core stability exercises, and a lot of like mobility exercises, I would say. So I think we also take for granted the upper back and the thoracic spine there. That needs to move and move nicely while you're running too, so that way again you disperse force pretty nicely. So even things like laying over a foam roller and stretching out that upper back, and things like that, I think could be beneficial as like a nice holistic program.
All right. Well, thank you, Samuel, for that question. We look forward to seeing you in New York. Anil, that was a fantastic answer. And as I said, it just transitions us to our next and last segment, which is about runner's knees. So, just out of the gate, can you just define what it is? Because again, it's something that a lot of runners, whether they're first-time runners or been running for a while, we use, and I don't think we always understand what it means.
Yeah, runner's knee, it's an interesting diagnosis because it's something that I like to call an umbrella diagnosis. It just kind of encompasses a bunch of different things. So, you don't have to be a runner to get runner's knee per se. But I guess like the formal definition would be, we all have the knee, right? That kind of does this. It's a hinge joint, just similar to your elbow here. What's different from your elbow into your knee is that there's this little tiny bone on top of your kneecap. And then as we move that knee, that little bone kind of moves above it, kind of gliding that knee up and down. If we didn't have that little bone, we wouldn't be able to walk, we wouldn't be able to function at all. So that little bone is super important. Now, the way that that little bone kind of what we call articulates or kind of interacts with the rest of the knee there is super important, and that's if there's a dysfunction in that, that is what runner's knee is. So basically, that little bone on top of the knee is not gliding properly as you're moving your knee, and therefore causing some kind of pain or some kind of tightness or some kind of dysfunction that leads you to then come see me. But with that being said, there are many different diagnoses within the umbrella of runner's knee that can lead to some kind of issue with that kneecap there. So for instance, like if that little bone is um, kind of moved off to the side or to the outside of the knee a little bit, a lot of times right away I'll think that potentially there's an issue with that IT band that we all know and love so much. Sometimes it could be a little bit tight or inflamed, kind of pulling on that kneecap a little bit, moving it laterally there. Another issue too is maybe kind of weakness in your quads, especially in like one little section of your quad at the very distal portion of your quad there, and therefore it's not pulling on that bone, that little kneecap properly, and therefore causing issues as well too. But yeah, that's a very umbrella diagnosis, and it really the best way that you can improve upon that is by getting into a good solid strength flexibility program, right? So that way you can kind of combat any kind of scenario while you're running.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Anil. I actually have a follow-up question, but I hear that we have other questions coming in, so we obviously want to hear first and foremost from you, the runners. So yeah, we'll throw up the first question. Any minute now, we'll throw up that question. All right, here we go. Hi, 5 days ago, I got blisters on the ball of my foot. I've been completely staying off my feet, but I'm having a hard time getting them to heal. That's almost a pun. Is there anything I could do to pad or help heal? Having a hard time finding something to help since it's a ball of foot.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one, because that's where you're striking through and absorbing contact while you're running there. So I would say that you said let's see. So I'm getting them to okay. So you've been staying off your feet. So you'd like to know about padding. So yeah, there are a bunch of over-the-counter stuff that you can utilize a little bit. Just something with a cushion in there, so that way you can disperse force a little bit better through that foot. I would say definitely the fact that you were staying off your feet is beneficial. But the thing about blisters is that they blister, they hurt, right? But then the only way for them to get better is if you kind of use it, because then they'll start to like callus over itself. Of course, like when we're talking about blisters too, you don't want to like pick at it, and you also want to observe it pretty frequently, because even just by walking around or maybe even going for a light run, if you do open that blister, right, then now you have an open wound, and on your foot too. So I would say just continue to monitor it, but also use your foot so you can actually start to callus it down a little bit. And then, for the immediate, if it's really bothering you, you can definitely, do like a little bit of an ice massage to it, just kind of to dull the sensation. You can pat it, with something over the counter. And then, yeah, just like you're doing, staying off of it, and hopefully it'll heal soon.
All right, thank you, Karina. Catherine, for that question. We have another one. Patricia Dubar, hi from Montreal. I have a spur beside my left leg toe. Um, sorry, let me. I have a spur beside my left big toe. Can move toe, but it is hard, and I'm doing 34 kilometers a week runs. Walk about 40 kilometers, no problems. Do I treat this?
Yes. Next question. No, I'm kidding. Definitely, 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 definitely got to go treat that for sure. Okay, and the reason is because that big toe is so so important, not only for running, of course, but for walking, right? And we're walking around, and you need about anywhere from 70 to 90 degrees of toe extension, which is just what you're calling toe up, or when you're walking, to push off properly, so we have a nice efficient gait. When you're running, you're magnifying that pressure, that force, by an exponential amount. So you really want to get that looked after. Maybe see your PT or your doctor or something like that. See if it's possible to mobilize that toe, so that way you can gain bigger ranges of motion. But a lot of the times when you do have a spur, or you have like a bunion or something that forms on, at least that's what it sounds like for you there. It's either flexible or it's not flexible, right? And so you want to catch it early, and hopefully it is flexible, so that way you can manipulate it a little bit, so that way you can be able to use your toe a little bit more normally.
All right, thank you, and good luck with that. I did like that response. Yes, treat it. Next question. Keeping it easy. Okay, this is a long one from Alexandra Borzo. I'm running the New York Marathon this year for the first time, and I'm so excited. A random thing I'm wondering is if I should address before or not. I have a stronger left leg than right, so much that the calf is more defined, and I'm always spending about 2% more time on my right foot than my left, in parentheses, since it doesn't fire as fast. Is that the kind of imbalance? Is that kind of imbalance normal, or should I focus on fixing it?
Yeah, great question. The calf is one of the strongest muscles in the body, of course, and the Achilles is the strongest tendon in the body, which attaches up into that calf there. So, with all that being said, you really want to make sure that you are as symmetrical as possible from side to side, because of course, running is a pretty steady state sport. But if you just think about quick movements and things like that, any sort of really quick movement can lead to further injury or inflammation or something like that within those calves. So you really should start to get them as symmetrical as possible. The fact that you find that you're spending more time on your right foot than your left. I'm not sure how you know that, but if you do know that, that's very useful information. I think that you should really. Everyone's going to have like a little bit of an imbalance, or a little bit of a right foot dominant, left foot dominant, or whatever the case may be. That's completely normal, but it's the fact of you being able to correct that, or it being pretty much even from side to side. So, for instance, when you're going through a gait cycle, and you have more weight through one foot during what we call stance phase. That's the foot you're standing on as the other leg is moving forward. That's totally fine to have X amount of weight through one leg, but then it should also be the same amount of weight on that other leg when you put that leg down too. So I think really getting it analyzed, and really finding your deficits, try to fix that. But yes, long story short, your calves especially should be pretty symmetrical, pretty even from side to side. A quick test that I do in the clinic for my patients is that I have them do like a double-legged calf raise just to see how it goes, just to watch how the muscles are interacting. And then I have them do single-legged calf raises just by holding on for a little bit of balance. Do it on your good side first, and a nice steady tempo of 10 reps, and then do it on your worst side and see if you have the same tempo and see if you can even make it to 10 reps. So that's a good way to kind of gauge yourself right off the bat.
All right, thank you for that, Anil. The next question, Kat O'Brien. Hi, I had a bilateral bunion surgery last fall. I've had a great recovery and I'm running again, but have soreness on the left foot where I had plantar plate damage that couldn't be treated. Parentheses, it wasn't torn, just damage. Any suggestions to pad or protect the area? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're running again, because those are tough injuries to come back from. So I think, getting a custom orthotic for that, for specifically what you're talking about, is going to be key. A lot of the over the counter stuff you can definitely try that out, but they're very generic, right? And what you have is a very specific diagnosis there. So I think inquiring about custom orthotics. I don't know where you are, but we have that here at the hospital. To really fit your foot properly, because yeah, that plantar plate is a very tough thing to come back from, and and especially since you're walking on it constantly and running on it. So custom orthotics for that.
All right, thank you for that. I think we have another question from Christine Canistra. Hi, just ran the Brooklyn half on Sunday and training for New York City in November. My feet and toes on Sunday around mile 10 started feeling numb before I started the race. Numb. Before I started the race, I adjusted my laces to every other. It helped somewhat, but by 13 miles, feet and toes were really hurting. I moved up to half size bigger. Any advice? Half size bigger meaning the shoe size.
Yeah, now whenever a runner tells me that, I always think about the shoe itself, potentially tying them too tight. It's good that you kind of skip laces to kind of alleviate some symptoms there. We have a very important nerve at the top of our foot there, and also important blood supply there too. So that can get very pinched down, with certain types of shoes. I think moving up a half size of shoe is fine, but if your foot starts to slide around, the first instinct is to tie your shoes tighter again, right? So I would say if you're going to move up a half a size, then maybe you want to double up on your socks or something like that to kind of fit the rest of the shoe, be a little bit more comfortable. Similarly, if that doesn't work, then I would definitely get it checked out a little bit, because although it does seem a little bit, mild, because you can run through a good amount of it before it's starting. I think, you don't want to do that for too long, because you don't want to have, some kind of lasting nerve type of damage, or arterial type of damage or stuff like that. So try the bigger shoe out first, maybe double up on the sock if you're sliding around a little bit. And then after that, if it still persists, come check us out.
All right, thank you. I believe this is the last question for now. Jesse Burke just ran Boston with injuries to Achilles with painkillers and KT tape and finished good. But pain is less, but lower back got tight. What is your suggestion?
Wow. Well, congratulations, because again, however you need to get through that finish line. But so pain is less in your Achilles, okay, with that stuff, but now the back is tight. So that's very common. Just because you're compensating, right? You're taking pressure off one part and moving it to somewhere else. And unfortunately the low back is the middle ground for a lot of our tension, both physically, emotionally, mentally, everything. Low back and neck too. People hold a lot of their stress there. So for your lower back, if it's just, tightness and discomfort and things like that, I would just try to go through some simple stretches, particularly stretching your hamstrings, your hip flexors. And then, while you're in bed, I would just do some simple kind of rotations from side to side of your hips, just to kind of loosen up that low back and hips area. But again, if it persists, if you start to get pain coming down the legs, if you start to get numbness and tingling and stuff like that, then you definitely want to get checked out.
Okay, thank you for that, Anil. So yeah, I believe we have a few shout outs, and I'll toss one more question to Anil, and then we'll wrap it up. So yeah, that same Jassy Burke. Hi, this was Jassy from Rise to Run. Good to see you. Rafael Guzman, thanks for your advice, coach. I'm watching from Venezuela. I'm I'm an ex-West Side runner. All right. Well, thank you for watching from Venezuela. Hola. Susan Hanner, good afternoon from Vero Beach, Florida. Good afternoon, Florida. Hopefully it's not too humid there, but I am envious of your weather. Gail Miranda, I really love the HSS chats. I learned so much. Thank you. Yeah, we love them as well. I actually learn as well. I've learned a lot from Anil, even how to take an insult in a professional way. I'm not letting that one go. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, just as we kind of wrap it up, and again, thank you everybody out there for watching and sending out your shout outs. Let them know where you're watching from. So Anil, the last question, to wrap up the runner's knee, springtime, and just kind of bring it around. So one question we always get from new runners is running is bad for your knees. And then if it's not bad for your knees right now at our relative age that, let's say you and I are, in our early ages, is bad for your knees later on in life as we get older. So if you could kind of either address that or as a myth buster and tell us what if any truth is there to that.
Yeah, I hear that all the time too, and I think we like to simplify things, and we like to give definitives. And honestly, it's very frustrating to hear because, the way I treat, and I tell my patients this all the time, especially if they come in from a referral from maybe their doctor or something like that, and their doctor said, never run again, or else you're gonna lose your leg or something like that. I always tell them that, truthfully, the way I believe it, the way I treat it is that. Um, you should be able to do whatever you want to do, okay, but you should also understand that there are consequences to doing something. And also, you just have to, just like, and this is a common theme, is to just prepare yourself to, so that way you can do whatever you want to do the best way possible. So honestly, I don't believe that in the sense that running is bad for your knees. I think incorrect running is bad for your knees. I think incorrect training could be bad for your knees and your body. But you just got to do things the right way. And so people develop these types of diagnoses, runner's knee or whatever, not because like the activity is bad, but just because they're just not ready for it, or their body is just not as efficient for that activity at that particular time. So I think, truthfully, it, if you love running, continue to run, but maybe do it in a modified way. If you like a certain type of shoe, and because of the way it looks, but you're hurting while you're running, then just change your shoes. And still be able to run. To even break it down even simpler, people say running's bad all the time, but the computer is bad for your eyes, right? And it could also be bad for your posture too. But we still have to use it, right? We use it for everything that we do. So again, but we found ways to modify it. Adjust your screen, wear these fancy nice little glasses here. Do a bunch of different things so that way you're more efficient to use the computer, and not hurting afterwards. So I think the same thing goes for running too. But again, just being prepared.
I love it, Anil. I feel like you're gonna have one of those underneath, like shop the look that Anil has: the glasses, the coat, the back,
Oh,
great posture.
oh
So
man.
yeah, we got one more question, shot, and then we're gonna close it after that. Don't wanna, we wanna be respectful because I think it's almost 1 p.m. So Anil has to be in bed in about 13 hours. So, so
That's right.
he's got
Very
to get
true.
ready for his
Very
bedtime
true.
routine
That's
somehow.
right.
Okay, so we
Exactly.
have Thomas Zoo. Would running on an unpaved path is prefer? Would running on unpaved path is preferred, such as running on Central Park Reservoir Loop? What are the pros and cons of running a lot of hills in the training, such as run lots of loops of Harlem Hill Loop? So I think I understand what he's asking. They're asking about the benefits of running on a unpaved path, like the bridle path loop or the reservoir loop, and then what are the pros and cons of running a lot of hills, such as Harlem Hill Loop?
Yeah, I think, and of course, please, Coach Roberto, hop in here. But I think honestly, it's about, what challenge do you want, right? Of course, if we run on very flat, very manicured concrete and stuff like that, you're not dodging anything crazy on the ground and whatnot. That you can train that way. Maybe that's your first run back, for the springtime or something like that. But then yeah, then you hit that the unpaved stuff, the maybe even different surfaces, for a different challenge. Similarly too, people say like I can't run on concrete because I instantly get pain up into whatever joint or something like that. Okay, then maybe try running on a softer surface like the beach or like grass or something like that. It may be harder, to kind of propel yourself, but at the same time, it could be a nice modification. And then, of course, running hills, I think is super important too, to kind of get different systems in your body going. But at the same time, I wouldn't do, crazy amount of hills. You do it strategically.
Yeah, I would say spot on. And Neil, I'll switch seats with you. You could take the coach's jacket. I'll take your look. But
let's do
yeah,
it.
just
Let's do
to
it.
kind of piggyback on what I don't have enough certifications to match you, but yeah, what I would say, just kind of piggybacking up on Neil, for any runner out there, you want to diversify your training as much as possible. This means there's a diversification in workouts you do, the terrain that you run on, and then of course, if you are going to get ready for a major city marathon like the TCS New York City Marathon, then you do want to make sure that you do focus a large part of your training on the roads. That way, your body gets used to that, and you're not just training primarily on trails. Although obviously, some people have done that successfully, or even on treadmills. And then obviously, it depends on where you live. Maybe in the winter time, it's safer and easier for you to be on grass at the treadmill versus the road because of ice. But and then the last thing, again, going with the theme of diversification. You don't want to only run flats, just like you don't want to only run hills. You want to kind of just switch it up, give your body different stimuli, and also your training. So, but yeah, Anil nailed it. So don't do too much of one thing, but also make sure that you're aware of what your weaknesses are. So if I'm not a very strong hill runner, then I'm going to try to run more hills in training, or emphasize it that way. Hills could become part of my strength, but that doesn't mean I'm only going to run hills. So awesome. So I think that's it. There might have been one more shout out. Yeah. Okay. We have Indu from New Jersey saying thank you. So thank you, Indu, for watching. And again, thank you everybody else for watching. Our partners from HSS, Anil, you're fantastic as always. Look forward to having you on, and your colleagues. You give out so much great information. As one of the shout outs say, they learn so much. We also learn a lot, even though we're the experts in running. But when it comes to injury prevention, there's top notch from Anil and the team there. So thank you very much, Anil. Any last words before you wrap up and get ready for bed?
I was just about to say this is we're cutting it close. I would just say
Yeah.
thank you again for having me. It's always so much fun. You guys are a great team, and love the audience always. Great questions, and just like we talked about, when you get back out there, endorphins are high. Just kind of rail yourself in a little bit. If you're feeling fatigued, you're feeling tired, that's your body telling you to kind of cool down a little bit. So try not to push it too hard, especially the first time out.
All right. Thank you very much, Anil. And thank you all out there for watching. And until next time, have a great day and happy Wednesday.